Hello there everyone, Niko Linni here, and today is a new year, or tonight. I don't exactly know when this video will be up, but Happy New Year all the same. So this is going to be the start of a new series on this channel that's going to be called Writer's Words. Now, what are we going to get out of this? This is where I talk about my thoughts and opinions and advice on writing. I have actually been writing a lot. I know there's not much online posted, but when I was younger, I used to crank out so many things. I've actually been writing short stories and serials and whatnot for a while. I think since 6th grade, I started doing dorky little fanfics that fortunately never found their way online. And then slowly but surely, I started writing my own characters and whatnot. I've always just been driven to create. I can't stop myself. Even at work, I'll be thinking of, well, how can we do this? Vakin does this, or let's have that happen and this happen. And I could sit here and tell you all these concepts I have. It's just I need to get myself writing and posting online so you guys can read that stuff. But yeah, I've just always been driven to create, and I really just like to use animal characters, you know? And yeah, okay, I'm a furry, right? That should be no surprise. If you've gotten this far on my channel and you're like, Niko, you're a furry? I'm gonna wonder what kind of powers of observation you have. But yeah, I love using animal characters. Just, I don't know why. I just like to use them. I feel like they can be a little bit more interesting than human characters, or I feel like there's more you can do with them. Now, fortunately, I'm not one of those people who think that you can just put an animal character in and the story gets more interesting. I mean, like, there's more you can do with them in terms of, like, how they act, how they think, societal structures, all kinds of things. The animals I'm using in my current story, Haunted Sweet, are actually on another planet, so they're built as alien creatures. They're alien anthropomorphic animals, and so there's just a bunch of things we can go from there. And one of the ideas too is that, you know, I'm trying to tap into that whole idea that anthropomorphic animals can kind of be something that, you know, you can explore parts of the human condition through like fables and stories and allegories and whatnot. And another idea I have, a concept I have with them, is that it's kind of exploring, you know, you got these intelligent creatures, do they have the same problems that we do? Because a lot of furries tend to idealize anthropomorphic animals as if a race of these creatures would be magically peaceful, and here comes me, the deconstructionist, saying no, that's not really quite so. Although I will haste to point out, my stories a lot of them actually aren't going to be these dark, depressing, everybody sucks, anything with intelligence sucks. It's just kind of like, hey, there's a bad guy, that's an anthropomorphic animal. That can happen. But other things too. I mean, we'll get to that. We'll get to that. And yeah, that's the thing. I've always just wanted to write stories, and it's always just been a driving force. I just read something, I get inspired, and I go, whoa, what about a story with this, where that happens? That would be interesting. And that's kind of what I'm going off of, or what I'm driven by. Just this insatiable need to create, and also to entertain too, I should admit too. I want to write things and have people read them and be entertained by them in some way. Hopefully a more positive way. So there's that. And speaking of writing and fiction, there's something else I want to kind of touch on real quick, because this is something that annoys the ever-loving crap out of me, and it's the whole thing of, well, it's just a story. You heard that one, right? It's just a story. And I'm not talking about like, oh, somebody got upset over something, oh, it's just a story. I mean, like, when you try to use it as an example. Because, see, another reason why I like to write is I like to bring a lot of ideas, concepts, messages, things to people's attention, to people's minds, to people's thoughts. Because I'll use a story or a TV show or something as an example of something. For instance, we were talking about, in a chat room we were talking about not ostracizing people who, you know, maybe they committed a wrong in the past, but they want to make amends and reintegrate back into a community. And I used an example from Batman the Animated Series. I said, well, I mean, there's that episode, there's 2 episodes actually, where Penguin tries to turn over a new leaf and be a good guy. Like, you know, reintegrate back into society and stop being a supervillain. And the upper class of Gotham City didn't accept him. And they rejected him. And where else is he going to go but becoming a villain again? And there's another episode where Harley Quinn tries to reintegrate back in society, and she's rejected. And so she has no choice but to go back to supervillainry. And so, of course, somebody goes, well, that's just a TV show. So what if it's just a TV show? That's still a really good thing to keep in mind. That there's people who want to reintegrate back into society, who want to rejoin communities, who realize they've done wrong, and they get rejected, and we kind of, in a way, make these people forced into being these monsters that they're trying to not be anymore, or may not want to be anymore. You know, there's that. And another thing is, too, a lot of fiction is based on reality. The Things They Carried by Timothy O'Brien, for instance, is based off of, I believe, is based off of his actual experiences in Vietnam, but it uses fiction. It uses a lot of, I mean, he even comes out at one point and says that everything that you've been reading in that book is a lie, and then says that, well, even that's a lie. And he says one of the most poignant things, I believe, in this segment. He says, sometimes story truth is truer than happening truth. Right? Like, really think about the story truth being truer than happening truth. What he's talking about is the things you read in the story sometimes rings truer than the things you read in real life. And I think, again, it's that idea of stories, of narrative, of characters just striking a chord with you the way that reading about it in real life just doesn't quite do it as well, if you see what I mean. And another good example of things being based off of real life is a friend of mine, Perry Rhodes, has her series Spectral Shadows. And in one of the parts, there's a anthropomorphic squirrel gal named Casey, and she suffers from extreme anxiety, like to the point that it's paralyzing at some instances for her. And if you ever read that, and if you ever feel like that just seems so real, like that person writing this just really knows what it happens, that's because the author actually has an anxiety disorder in real life. So they are taking their happening truth and mixing it with a story truth to create a character that a lot of people feel sympathetic and sorry for, because she can't help it. That's just how she's wired. But there's also, you know, her learning to overcome that, if she will. So that's like kind of something I wanted to throw out there. I know that's a little bit off the chart, but that's the kind of things that would be in store for. And I definitely want to come back to this and do a whole video on it's just a story, because that really irritates me to no end, because it just seems real narrow-minded. I mean, as a friend told me, you know, what are one of the most, you know, looking back at ancient Greeks and Romans, what are some of the things that have survived through the years? Yes, you have the philosophers, but you also have the stories, the narratives, these stories and tales and comedies and dramas and tragedies that, well, teach you a lesson. Their story truths become truer than happening truths. So that's the kind of things. Well, I mean, that, and also basic, you know, advice on fiction writing and stuff like that. As I said, I've done a lot of writing myself, and I am, as of now, a 4th year English major focusing on creative writing. So I get a bit of weight to what I'm saying. So I hope you'll come back and join me next time. I'm going to be talking about cliches and furry fiction. That's going to be a fun one, I feel like. So thanks for listening, and I'm Niko Linni. I will see you all next time, and right on.